we're going to be talking about colleges and our experience in college and our experiences outside of college.
Cool. Esther, do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
Sure. My name's Esther. I majored in social work and sociology, and I went to PSU.
I'm Angela. I started at Western Washington University, and now I'm going to Portland Community College, and I plan on majoring in child psychology.
Awesome. My name is Brittany. I went to George Fox University, and I studied fashion design and studio art.
Ooh. My name is Ruth, and I am still finishing up my undergrad at Washington State, and I am studying psychology and neuroscience.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I went to Bronx Community College where I studied nutrition, and then Pacific University here in Oregon where I majored in public health.
My name is Sarah, and I did my undergrad at UC Davis in global disease biology.
Hi, I'm Johnny, and I did my undergrad in biology from the University of Tübingen.
I don't know. My name is Mike. I went to Oregon State. I studied computer science and biology with an option in pre-med.
Sweet. What were your guys' expectations, like going to college, or your family's expectations of you? If they had any.
I think it's a cultural thing. Like, you're just supposed to go to college. I think when the biggest thing when you're in high school is no one told me next step. They were almost push you in a way towards college. Like they were like, oh, you should apply here and then apply there. When it's I really didn't know what I was gonna do anyways. But because of my sister had already gone to college before me, it was okay, the next step is just to go to college when I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think that's a big deal. And I think part of the system is sort of messed up in that way where it's you're put in that position where it's oh, I guess I have to go to college, or you can't not it's looked down upon if you take a year off to do something trying to find your passion in that. But for me, it was almost me personally, it was a shove. Okay, you're going to college. If not, you're gonna live on the streets, kind of thing.
That's serious.
So it's a parent's expectation, but it's a cultural thing too. So it's.
So for me, I think that my family kind of expected that I would go to college because of the fact that I always did so well in school, but no one in my family had gone to college, so there wasn't really a lot of support financially or really any experiential support. No one really could tell me how to go about it, so I didn't really have anyone who could help me along the path as far as people in my actual immediate family. So
Same.
yeah.
I
but it was still expected.
I'm 6 out of 12, so numbers being the 6th, I think I was the second. One of my older sisters, we both got our AA together and our bachelors, but college wasn't necessarily pushed, but also I know that culturally you're kind of expected. My parents came from Romania, so we didn't have a lot here. We had to build that community and stability first, but it's my parents didn't really push it, but I know a lot of Romanian families that do, and it's very you're going to college to make a better life for yourself, basically, to be financially stable.
I think that's big for if your parents came here as immigrants.
Yeah.
Because it's almost they sacrificed when they came here to America to work, and they see that college is the only way to be successful, is to make money so you can actually make a living. And because of the culture, and it's that's all they're focused on is to just survive. They think that's the only path it is for us, when it's completely different now because there's so many avenues that you can do. So it's almost you have to thank your parents that they almost sacrifice their part of themselves to give you a chance to do what you want. And sometimes for me, when my parents wanted me to have these high paying jobs, which is usually a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, whatever, but that didn't really satisfy me as when it comes to happiness. And so I think that was spending I spent almost 6 years at Oregon State, and so it felt this huge this isn't me kind of thing, a huge identity crisis. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a very strong cultural background like either of you two, but it was very much expected for my parents for me to go to college and I didn't even have to know what I was doing though, which was kind of the nice part, because you have your full freshman year to change your major as many times as you wanted and just take whatever random classes you wanted just to see what you were interested in. But I was very fortunate that my parents started off with a college fund when I was born, so I had the ability to go wherever I wanted. Their one stipulation was it needed to be in state, but besides that, they were just like, go take a bunch of classes, and so I took. I tried to take classes that had some like prerequisite, because you always have to do like American government or like English or writing or whatever, and so I ended up taking a filmography class on vampires and a writing class on fairy tales, and then I also took this random disease course that was diseases in society, and it just kind of brought you through all of the epidemics of the world, and that's how I ended up finding my major. So I don't think that you necessarily even need to know what you love when you go, but I think it's part of the, like, taking that risk and just going and seeing what happens.
That's like predicated on the fact that your parents did save you money, you know? Because I was born in a situation where a lot of people are low income, where that's not an option. You know, you have you have Medicare and all that for your like parents and that. So like, and that's, you know, that's a difficult topic to talk about, because there's a lot of people that shun other people because they don't have a college degree, perhaps. They don't have like a piece of paper kind of thing. And I think it's hard because it's college is expensive, and it gets more expensive every single year. And so for the system now to still say that you should go to college, I don't think it's right. I think it's more like you should be able to, like, you know, in a way, when you're a freshman, somehow teach that to high schoolers, that give them that many options. But we live in a high school system where it's not like that. It's still very traditional, like, this is right, this is wrong. You get A's, and that's, you know, you're marked as what you are as a person kind of thing. So
I think it's interesting that, like, my experience in high school, everyone just is expecting that you're going to college, and like the teachers will be like, oh, like in college you have to like blah blah blah, it's gonna be so much harder, like you guys better like whatever, like get your shit together right like now essentially. But I just think it's interesting because like obviously not all those people are going to be able to go to college, and not all of them are going to choose that path.
I almost felt more pressured to go to college from high school teachers than I did from my parents, I think. And like my parents kind of expected it of me in the same way that like they started saving beforehand, but like they also never were like, you have to, like it's a, or you know, I don't know, you're gonna get kicked out. Like that wasn't a thing for me either. But like I definitely felt more pressure by teachers. Like I remember one specific teacher would say things like, if you don't go to college, or even if you go to community college and not a university, it's like not as significant, and it's like you're less than. And so it was like, gotta go, I guess. But I don't know.
That just made me think, because I was thinking about that, because I went to community college first, and I think there's like a lot of judgment about that as well, like kids going to community college first when that is like the most realistic like thing that fits into their life into people's lives a lot of the time for cost wise. But like I don't know, for me, if I wouldn't have went to community college first, like I probably would have never ended up in the university that I did, because it gave me a chance to like, because I got all my community college paid for because I was low income. And then I did so well in community college that I got a bunch of scholarships to go to my university. So it's just like, I don't know, there's so much judgment in society about going to community college, when it really, it can really like help you out in the long run.
Yeah. And I think it also like helps with figuring out what you want to do, like career wise, because I didn't even know until my last year of community college.
It's also expensive to figure out what you want to do in a community college than it is for a 4-year university too. So I had some friends that like practically had to start all over for their prereqs for their major after switching. It's kind of an expensive choice to make, so that you don't feel stuck in your degree.
What were your guys' expectations going in, like once you already like had a school that you're gonna go to? And then also like, did it live up to your expectations or not?
Well, I'm a very optimistic person, so I was like, I'm gonna have amazing roommates, I'm gonna meet my best friend, I'm gonna like meet my future husband, and gonna get all A's, and it'll be great. And for the most part, that happened, but obviously there were bumps along the way, and dorms were not what I thought they were gonna be. I thought they were gonna be like, I don't know, more fun, but it really wasn't. Like, it was very, I don't know, it just fell flat for my expectations of like how much fun it could be to have everyone living together. And I thought that I was going to kind of make more friends from my dorms than I actually did. I made more friends in classes than I did with the people that were in my dorms.
I've never been in a dorm, so I don't know
Yeah, I
what
wasn't
dorm life is.
It was a mandatory thing from my year.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, actually, I
It
think
was-
that I'd still talk to like a couple people that were on my freshman dorm.
Yeah?
Yeah, like and like see them regularly.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't know. I didn't have any expectations honestly when it came to college. I was like, I finally get to choose like what classes I take, and I could like choose something that's gonna be fun. So I was like super excited. But other than that, I was just like, I don't live at home anymore. This is awesome, and like I can do whatever I want.
I was like, no bedtime. Whoa, that's so cool. I can hang out with whoever I want. I can stay out. But I think that as a freshman, that's all I did was like try to have fun. But then that's when the expectations like, oh, school is actually a lot harder than I thought, because it was like when tests came around and I was like, oh, I feel like I did really good on tests, and you're like really excited until you get your grades back, and then all of a sudden you're like devastated. You're like, oh, I thought I was studying this whole time, but it's a lot of like trial and error of like, I wasn't a library person. I never went to like the library to study. I was like one of those kids who thought like I can just read everything and just memorize it and do well on these tests, and that like never applied, because I wasn't someone that like would look at problems and actually try the problems. I would just look at the problem and be like, okay, I'll memorize this one, it'll be on the test.
Do you feel like the school that you went to before college prepared you for college?
Like high school?
Like
No.
college?
So high school?
The high school that you went to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, do you feel
No.
prepared when you went or no?
I think some of my teachers definitely did a better job than others. Like AP English, I feel like was rigorous enough to prepare me, but other classes, it was very relaxed.
AP, I feel like AP classes were so much harder than Clark or like going to community college.
Oh,
It was
really?
like
No, I
did
felt like,
not
yeah, I
understand.
felt like my college classes were so easy, honestly. I was like, what is this?
Oh, I
Community
had the
college is
opposite. Like AP biology was nothing compared to the classes that I took at UC Davis, but that might just be because they are very strong in sciences there, and they don't joke around Gen Chem.
I think in high school it's like almost individualized. There's certain, like for me, there's certain kids that were gonna be really smart because they had good grades, and there's certain, like most of the kids that were like low income and were like, because I went to school that had like a lot of gains in that, and a lot of kids that get in trouble. The more kids that got in trouble, you know, the teacher didn't really show them any like appreciation or love. They more focused on the kids that they thought that were gonna be successful, which is sort of hard too. And I think there's a bias there that teachers show students that they don't really probably understand, but it happens.
Well, I didn't go to high school here in the U.S., so it's kind of like when people start talking about SATs, APs, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? But so I even like started like college not knowing what a syllabus was. So it's kind of like the opposite of what you guys. I mean, or maybe similar in some ways. But I don't think it prepared me at all. I mean, like coming from like a different country, and not having like my high school experience here, so I didn't know what to expect. So.
Wait, so you didn't have to take the SATs to get into college?
No, I didn't. Like, they checked my grade. I graduated when I was 16, and then they're like, oh, it all looks good, checks out. You don't have to go to high school. So I just worked.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish I had that experience though, because it's like I feel like that would have like integrated me to like, you know, prepare me for college in some ways.
Was it harder than you expected?
It
like
was
coming here.
It was confusing. There's like so many things that I had no idea, just the culture alone. And like I said, you know, like coming to class, it's like it's different. So
I want to hear Johnny's experience. Like, how was it in Germany?
I think the dorm thing is very weird for me. Like some of the experience I heard from some American students, or where you're just so like squished into this small space together.
Yeah.
Like in Germany, I think the students still have their own rooms or like in shared apartments. Like a lot of people do it in Portland. With college, what was the question?
Like,
Your
how?
expectations.
Yeah, what's your experience from high school to college?
I had a very tough time choosing what I want to do just because I was interested in a lot of stuff. I could see myself doing art, music, sciences, and I just picked something and I grew in it somehow. A lot of stuff happens while you're in college, I feel like. And I think for me it was, I went abroad to the UK for a year. I lived in Switzerland for a while, and those international experiences were for me that I think in the end made me more, brought me closer to myself. Not the college, but the individual projects that I did, you know, where you independently, like I had to look, hey, okay, I'm going to the UK, where do I live? And then I grew a lot from that, I feel like.
Like figuring your stuff out by yourself,
So, for me, like, I went to college like very non-traditionally because I didn't start college until like 15 years after I graduated high school. So it was terrifying, and also like just being around, like especially since I started at community college, like being around like kids a lot younger than me. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them that were just like out of high school. But as far as like expectations, like as soon as I decided that I was gonna go back to school, like I knew that I was gonna like give it my all. So I kind of like, that's just what I did. Like I worked while I went to school, but also like I put everything into college. So like I didn't sleep that much. Like I really wanted to just do my best since I had waited so long to go. So I was like very hard on myself about everything. Very much like had to be a perfect student.
Were you straight A?
What?
Were you straight A person?
Was I straight A's? Pretty much, yeah.
That's
yeah. But like looking back on it, it's like I like almost like it was so hard. Like I put so much pressure on myself and I was so stressed and so unhealthy that I probably could have been like a B student and still survived, you know. But yeah, like perfectionist and needing, like I feel like I felt the need to prove myself, you know, like
to yourself or to others?
both. Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoever wants to.
Okay. So of course, when you're like graduating high school, at least for me, everybody, like the only thing anyone cares about is like what college are you going to and what are you majoring in, and that's like all people ask you. So what were your guys, like what were people's reactions, like society's reactions to your individual majors? What happened?
What?
It was off.
What are you doing?
So
like, did you guys have like negative, positive?
I had
like, what did people
mostly
do?
Positive. Ooh. Because UC Davis is right next to where I grew up in Modesto, and so it was a very big name. Everybody knew who UC Davis was. They're very popular for wineries and also veterinary services. So everyone was really excited when I was going to go to UC Davis, and it was really affirming for me. Angela, it kind of looks like you might have the other.
Oh no, when I first started going to school, I was gonna be a creative writing major, and the response I got from everyone was, "What are you gonna do with that?" And then I was like, I don't know, I just like it. So it was different. And then I dropped out of college, and I got a different response as well. But like, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
So it was like expectations from society about.
Just like what was like judgments from society about the school, about your major? I was gonna ask Sarah, like, did you know what you were gonna major in when you first started?
I thought it was gonna be something biology related, but I didn't know what it was gonna be. I actually applied to each UC with a different major. So there was one like marine biology and like kind of all within the sciences because that's just something that intrigues me. But global disease biology wasn't actually created as a major until my sophomore year. So I was the first graduating class. So the entire time I was there, they were still kind of figuring out what the major was going to look like, what professors were actually going to be in that major. And so it was kind of fun to be the guinea pigs. So I enjoyed that. But I had no idea specifically what I wanted to do, which is kind of one of the reasons I just like played around and took a bunch of weird fun classes. But everyone was really excited when I told them like that I changed my major, because when I first applied, I applied under they call it NPB, Neurobiology, Physiology, and Behavior, which is the world's longest major, and everyone is always like super impressed by that because it is such a lengthy major, which I always found funny. But yeah, I got only positive remarks, but that's because it's the traditional like going to school for sciences, and that is just always.
That's probably like a different expectation versus like a social science or like a social career.
Yeah, people react very differently to hard sciences versus something soft like sociology or psychology. Yeah. There's always a, like, what are you going to do after that? But I feel like you can say that with a biology major. What are you going to do with that? Because within sciences you can't, I feel like, just based upon my experiences with trying to find a job with just my bachelor's, is that you don't necessarily find a super easy job with a biology major compared to a psychology. I ended up going back for my master's because I felt like I needed an additional degree to be able to make a good life, a good living wage, you know?
Definitely.
Like that makes, sorry, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
I was just thinking that, like, people's judgments or thoughts on, like, what you're gonna major in seems to be based on, like, income.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, it's just, like, there's a lot more judgment if you're going to school for something that is not probably going to make you as much money as something in the sciences.
Yeah, it's like, what's like the most functional job?
Yeah.
To like help society.
Yeah.
Wow, you're doing so
but
much,
it's like
so great, or whatever.
Yeah, no one's ever like, oh, well, is that what makes you the happiest? It's like, oh, what's going to make you the most money? You know what I mean? That's kind of what I've kind of experienced.
I think like the biggest thing is like whatever degree you get, some people are very ego driven about their degree. That because a lot of like science jobs, when you come out, they ask for you to have 3 to 5 years of experience in that field, but it's like, I just graduated college. And so there's a lot of people who like they need money because you need to pay for rent, right? So you need to get a job, and that might be like working retail or something, right? But so many people who have these science degrees don't want to work retail because it's like, I went to school for like a medical degree or like a science degree. I don't need to work here, you know. I need to be paid $80,000 a year is minimum kind of thing. So it's like that ego thing where it's like they would rather stay home and do nothing for a year and just keep applying for jobs rather than work a job, make at least 12, 13 grand a year or something like that, and take that and do something with that, with that. Better than having your high ego and thinking that you're so much better than, blue collar people or working people who are like janitors and that, which we live in a world where you need those kind of individuals. There's completely nothing wrong with those jobs. And I think it's hard when those people who have higher degrees belittle everyone else when it's just unfair. It's not, you shouldn't be doing that to other people.
Well, I think that's kind of an overstatement too, because I had a science degree and I worked in retail because that was the only job that I could get right out of university. I moved up here and knew nobody and started applying, and it was quickly like, I need to pay rent, like I need to go get a job. So I worked in a bakery and I worked for retail too.
Well, I wasn't like aiming at you. I'm just saying.
I know, but there are
like, a lot of people in society.
I think a lot of people are feeling the pressure to have some sort of money because there's also that stigma of like, I don't want to move back in with my parents right away because you have 4 years of freedom, and then facing like, I need to return to my parents' place just always kind of like makes you feel that impending doom. And there's nothing wrong with living with your parents. Like, I have friends that do that and you save a bunch of money and that's great, but I think a lot of people feel that pressure of like, I need to do something even if it's not within my field.
Well, and I think the whole moving back with your parents thing is like, you moved out for college and you're expected to get this degree and you're expected to get money, so when you do that, you're kind of like, you didn't meet that expectancy, like that you're making all this money, that you're able to afford rent and all this.
Well, that's what happened with our parents. My parents went to college and then they immediately got a career and bought a house. And it's like, that doesn't work for us anymore.
I think that's what was like really hard too for me, because I worked since I was like could work like since I was 16 or whatever, and I think part of the reason I went to college was because I'm like, I don't want to continue working food service or retail or whatever, like I want to do something else. And then I worked all the way through college, and then I graduated, and then I still worked retail. And I'm just like, it like obviously wasn't for nothing, but like in a way it kind of felt like that, because I'm like, wasn't this like supposed to help me? But it's not really. Like, I like have all this like information and knowledge, but I like don't get to put it to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's challenging because we have like this idea of a timeline in our head, you know, like move out with parents and then like get a job. I mean, like graduate college, get a job, get a degree, and then get like high paying job. And then like when we deviate from that timeline, it feels like we're like, oh, a failure, or like something's wrong with us, or so.
Do you feel like the colleges give a false promise somehow? Because right now I have some applications open or some spots, and I feel like I'm getting lured in, and I get like, whoa, our program is so amazing, like come here. And it's also, it costs a lot of money, so I feel like they make false promises, so when someone graduates and doesn't find a job right away, it's also, they have this illusion somehow that the college gave them. Do you feel like that's true?
I don't know if it comes from the college though.
I like specifically had a broken promise completely, like from the school that I went to. Yeah, because I went to George Fox, and their fashion program was super new, but they like had linked up with FITM in LA, the Fashion Institute. And so the program was supposed to be 2 years at George Fox, and then you transferred and like moved down to LA, and then you like finished the rest of school in LA at FITM. And so I started going to school, and like I started immediately taking fashion courses, and then something happened, and they ended up like canceling their relationship with the school or something. I don't know exactly, like, I don't know what happened, but then I was like already going to that school, and like wasn't necessarily a school that I would have chosen to go for what I went for, but I was like already there, so I don't know. Yeah, I think, I mean, like, you never know what to expect, or you never know, like, what you're actually going to get, I guess. Obviously, everyone wants you to go to their school, but...
I think it kind of depends, too. Like, I've had friends who have taken classes at technical schools, I don't know, like more private schools, and they have had a lot of, like, those promises, we'll place you, we'll try to help you find a job, but then I've also heard, like, instances where they never found a job, so... I think it depends on what kind of school you go to.
Yeah, I feel like public universities are generally a little bit more stable. Like their promises seem more realistic, and because they're held to that like statewide standard, I feel like you can depend on them a little bit more. Like they're not gonna suddenly shut down and go into bankruptcy, and suddenly you're out. You have like no credits, and you're in a bunch of debt, and now you have to like move schools because that's happened. Students.
I think that is important though, and like I never thought about this when I was in school, but just like researching the connections that the school has to other like businesses and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or even just like how well known the name is also important.
I feel like that's something that nobody tells you in high school, or I mean I haven't had a lot of role models that like have gone through college before me, you know, or like during that transition, so it's like hard to know that before you start college. Like look at like how well their programs are, like I mean financials, like how much it's gonna cost each year, like all of these things I feel like would have helped going into or like researching these colleges before, and that didn't happen.
This is like you're when you graduate, you're not entitled to that job. I think a lot of people when you graduate, they think that's gonna get them in, you know. When it's like, I don't know, it's hard because there's a lot of people who they finish college and they're so excited to start this new life, you know. They can put a down payment on this new house and whatever. When it's like most likely now it's so hard to hold a job, and it's just the turnover rates for a lot of companies as they grow, they want higher requirements because they want to spend less money, they want to spend it on the right individuals. And with the amount of people that come out of college ratio compared to jobs, it's really competitive, especially in the sciences. And even if you go like to the creative scene, it's more difficult because there's people who want it more than you and they're willing to put in more hours. some people don't even have like, you know, they don't have an art degree in that. They're just talented themselves and they're willing to work harder than you. And I think that's what it comes down to is like sometimes that's why I'm sort of iffy about college. I think if you're talented enough and you really want it, you can get that education by yourself, especially on the internet with these days where you can learn pretty much everything. So it's hard to validate a piece of paper that, you know, that if it puts debt on you, debt is like the worst thing you can ever have, especially, you know, interest. And so I think that builds up over time, and it causes a lot of like mental health and that issues.
Well, what about if you want to be like a doctor or
I think that's a must.
Okay.
I think anything in science or the fields where you have to help people, then that's a must.
Yeah.
But like if you want to be like in computer science, like you technically don't need a degree. You have to, you know, just do the work and apply it to yourself every day. Because like for me, I went in for computer science because my dad had put that on me, and I like at a young age he would always teach me how to fix computers, how to code and everything. So when I went in, I thought I was like already ahead, which I was a bit. But then everything else was like, okay, my dad told me this was gonna be fun. This is not fun at all. I do not like sitting in front of a computer doing this over and over again. And over time, it was like, okay, now I'm stuck in this position where I don't want to leave school because it's like I don't want to disappoint my parents. But then this isn't making me happy, and so now you're stuck in this, you know, gray area where it's like I guess I have to do this for my parents, but I have to sacrifice whatever amount of my years. And for me, it was 6 years of my life where I just had to sit there and listen to the teacher and almost admit that they were right and I was wrong, even though I can come up with I can do the same solution in a different way, but I was told I was wrong. And so that made it seem like, okay, it takes out like when you're a young child, your mind goes everywhere. You know, you can think about anything, but as you get older, it's almost like you can't be.
You're limited in creativity. Yeah, I feel that too because I've definitely taken a class and like in sociology where it like talks about how different our society is versus other countries where they allow creativity. Over here, it's like we have one mindset, kind of like we teach one way, and if you don't get it, you're like, I don't know how to help you. You know what I mean? Like teachers are very like one-minded, and it doesn't cater to everybody's learning styles, and that sucks. Yeah. Like for people who don't get it.
Do you feel like Mike? That was still like a valuable experience, even though like you're saying that like essentially a waste of time? Like looking back, do you feel like it taught you stuff?
I think
like about life even.
I think college is the best thing. It teaches you about life.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by so many people that are so different. That's like the best opportunity for you to like, you know, grab knowledge from someone that's maybe from a different country or something, or like different ethnicity or whatever. But I think when it came to the educational part itself, it's like education did not help me. The way that I was like taught how to learn, that was not for me. You know, and everyone learns differently. You know, I'm a person where you just toss me into the world and I have to figure it out for myself. Like doing the books and doing the studies, like I've never pulled an all-nighter in my life because I just can't sit there and like absorb the information. Like it just not willing. Like my brain doesn't do that. And so I think part of it is like I felt trapped in a way. Like I don't use any of my degrees now, which is really hard because those degrees cost a lot of money. And for me, like I was very fortunate. My mom was like, my parents were like Sarah's that they saved since I was young. And if you think about it now, it's like they could have used that to like, I don't know, go on a vacation because we've never gone on vacation as a family together except for one time. Or they could have used that to pay for something else that would make them happy. So it's hard to see that they spent their whole entire, like they were living their dream through me and I had failed them. Because I had graduated at OSU and I graduated so late compared to my other friends where it was like, you know, Mike finally did it, you know, but it was like, people look down on you when you're like not good enough, you know, or like you didn't do it in 4 years.
If you don't get it in that time frame.
I feel like this is like off topic, but I feel like I don't know how to word it. I feel like they were like setting you up for like, or like in their eyes they're like setting you up for success, and they're like, this is the way that you're gonna get it, and so they're like giving you what they can. And I think that's usually like the mindset and when parents are like really pushing school and stuff.
I think it's only certain personalities that can pull off not going to college and still being so driven and being so determined that they're willing to study independently on their own and learn how to do things that fits their education style. because I don't know about like you guys, but I need something else externally that drives me half the time. Like I'm fairly self-motivated, but not when it comes to like strict academics. I do want somebody else checking up on me and making sure that I'm doing it. So I think that really only works for certain personalities. Not to like put you down or anything, but you're gonna need to be like very self-driven and very determined to try and get someplace.
And cut.
You know, you were talking, everyone's looking at
So I had just finished my little rant on what personality types I think would be suited towards not going to college and still being successful in their chosen field.
It's like a very specific person. I feel like it's like personality, like it's what you want to do. I don't know.
I think for me, it's like through college. Like I think at college, I had like an all-time low. I've been open about this. I've talked about universities before. That if I didn't finish my degree in 6 years, I was gonna kill myself because it's really hard because I was stuck in this cultural thing where it's like I have to finish no matter what. But then other part of me is like you can't finish. This is not how you learn. And so you sort of had to force yourself. And I was stuck in this situation where it was like I just don't know what to do. I rather college is so fun because you get to meet so many people, but it comes to the expenses of to have that much fun, your grades are failing. Like I barely graduated. Even if I took my degrees now and that GPA, I wouldn't be able to get a job at Boeing or like Kaiser because my GPA is that low. And so it was like, what's the point of all this? And so that's why, through that point I was very suicidal. And it's like, I think at some point for me to be where I am now, I think I had to hit that very low point. There's no lower than trying to kill yourself. It's really low. And to think that, okay, that this is my low point, I need some positivity in my life. I have to think great about who I am and what I can do and the potential to be there. If not, then I think you're just existing in life at that point, Because when you're at that low, you think about the past. Oh, this is how fun the past is, and you try to predict the future when no one can really predict that future. And so you're not really living life, you're just existing. And so for you to really live life, you have to live in that moment, even though it's like, okay, I got a bad grade. Hey, my friends are having fun and I'm having fun with that. You have to think about the positives. And that eventually led the way where like the day I graduated like college, I like flipped a switch in me. I was like, okay, I know who I am. I know what I'm really good at. I'm just gonna focus on that entirely, like 110%. I don't care about what other people think about me, especially my parents, and that sounds really harsh, but that's true because it's like, if you don't love who you are as a person, then you just can't be successful. You have to love who you are. You have to put in that amount of like hours and work to know that the only way for you to be like successful is like it depends on your your definition of it. And for me, success was just gonna be whatever I did that would make me happy. And if that was like painting, then I was gonna focus 100% to be the best painter in the world. If it was like I could have been a janitor, I was gonna be the best mopping person in the world, But it's whatever it was, I had to put 110% in it, which eventually got me here. And now we're all here in the podcast together, and we get to talk about things that are just important in like everyday lives.
So that,
Go ahead, Johnny.
sometimes I feel like there's not that one thing for me, and that's what I struggle with. Like, it might be for some person it is painting or so, but I run out of time somehow studying all these different kind of things, and
Well, so there needn't be just one thing in your life,
Yeah.
Which is something that our parents' generation didn't really experience. Like, my mom's been a nurse for 27 years, and she will always just be a nurse. Not just be a nurse, but that's her sole profession. And I think that we have a little bit more freedom, and we allow ourselves to change jobs frequently. And if we start out in this field, we don't necessarily have to end up in it.
Yeah, and
I don't think it's a bad thing that so many things interest you. So
It's good.
take them one at a time.
I think
Do it all.
also someone like Mike, if you make yourself, if you want to accomplish it all yourself, you must have so many skills on different levels.
Well, I think it's like, I after I graduated, I had all these skills, but if I didn't focus on one singly, then it's like you can't go 110% in everything, you know.
Yeah.
So you have to just pick one and just do that. And it's also, I think, when it comes to college, when you're under 30, you're just so young still. You know, I think everyone thinks when you graduate college, that's how life is. That's who you are for the rest of your life. That you don't grow or anything, and then you become complacent in that situation. And you're like, these are my friends for the rest of my life, and you don't want to. For you to grow, you have to go through like changes in that, and that's hard when it comes to like people who will look at you and be like, oh, you changed so much, but it's like, I'm 22, I'm 21, I'm just a kid. Like for me, life doesn't really start until you're like in your 30s or like whatever. And I think right now, so much of the system puts it on that this is who you are when you graduate college. You know, you're gonna get married, you're gonna have a car, and you're gonna have kids in that. When it's like, for our parents, that's what it was like. But for us, it's like you can do whatever you want really now. You just have to really you just have to believe in yourself and believe that you can actually do it, and find people that support you who will help you get there. Not the other way around, because I think, especially in college, when you graduate, there's still people who want to do stuff that you don't want, but because you're friends, you end up doing things that don't make you happy just because those are your friends, right? You think that's like the right thing to do, and so I think there's a fine balance of being with people that will help you succeed in life, and then there's people who are toxic in your life, and you have to address those people. And sometimes that's a really hard conversation, because sometimes the toxic people might be your parents. You know, it sounds, I sound horrible, but that is true.
I think it's really easy to lose yourself in college too. Like that first year when you're out on your own, it's so easy to try all these different things and then kind of lose hold of what you wanted in the first place and what you held to yourself during high school. And you can kind of just lose that in your first year as you're surrounded by different types of people.
And I think you kind of find it again too as you go through college. So you grow up a lot and you know what works for you and what doesn't, what you like and what you don't like. So, or sometimes it doesn't just stop there. You continue on even after you graduate.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, like you really are like getting into like your own routines and stuff. Like when you live with your parents, I think there's so much of that, like them shaping you, and like this is like when we eat dinner, like, you know, small things like that. Like this is when I like wake up, and then like this is my morning routine, blah blah blah. And then when you get into college, like there's not anybody that's like pushing you in the way that your parents push you, I think, when you're living with them. And so you have to like come up with your own system. And I don't know, it's cool, but it's also like, always changing.
So going off of that, how did you guys, cope when it comes to like, mental health is very important, especially in college, because there's so much stress from, every perspective. How did you guys, cope with that, or what kind of mechanisms did you guys use?
I joined a club.
Like this kind of club, or?
Decidedly not the Davis Ballet Company, so very different type of dancing. But I found like similar people who held interests, and once a week we would all get together and dance, and that was just kind of my outlet for stress. So then we'd all go and get Thai food together or whatever, and we were all pretty much in the sciences too, and the majority of my friends there were a year ahead of me, and so they were able to kind of like pass along some of their study materials and kind of sympathize me when I got a professor that they've had before, and they're like, oh, it sucks, but like here's what you can do, or like give me practice exams. And so I really found good mental health doing something that I had been doing since I was 5, and it was comfortable and just a type of release for me. And then I found really amazing people along the way.
I don't think that I always dealt very well with like all the pressure I put on myself in college. Like I definitely like put a lot of pressure on myself, and there were points when I felt very trapped because I was just like such a perfectionist. So I don't really know how I dealt with it. Like it's kind of a whirlwind in my head. Still, like I feel like I went kind of like highs and lows. Like I would be pushing myself so hard, and then I would like get a really good grade on a test, and that would like keep me sustained going. And I know that sounds crazy, but
no, it's not crazy.
I just
do that.
Like it was, and because especially since I knew like my family was so proud of me for going back to school, it was like there were a couple times where I wanted to just quit, and I was like, I can't do that. Like, everyone is like, you know, everyone's expecting so much of me. Like, I have to keep going. But I was pretty unhappy for my first couple years of college because I felt kind of out of place. But like, there were bright points. Like, I joined clubs too. Like, I was in the creative writing club. Like, I helped edit like our literary magazine, and that really helped me like meet people, like like-minded people. But I feel like it was a kind of a dark time for me. Like, it was like, I was proud of what I was doing, but it was also like super, super hard, and I felt kind of alone because I was kind of alone because, yeah, like it wasn't the same experience. Like, I didn't like live on campus in a dorm. Like, I didn't have like as much in common with everyone that I was in school with. So it was hard. It was not the best like mental health time of my life, I would say, for sure.
Right. Community college was so different from university. Like, I don't know. I feel like the community college was so much easier, and I also like went the same time my sister did, and we had like a bigger community, bigger network of friends. But PSU was all like brand new. It was in a different state for me because I was in Washington. It was very liberal compared to like Vancouver or Clark. Not necessarily Clark, but like just my family where I grew up. And so mental health wise, I feel like in being in the social work program, you go through it with a cohort of people, so you get to know each other really well, and that's like what really helped me. Like, I moved in this place actually with one of my friends from the program. Like, this is how we got, you know, like we bonded so much more that we were in the same program, and also that we saw so many, like, ironic how we were in a social work program and there's still so many like inequalities that you notice in the program, and you kind of bond over that because you're like, I mean, we're learning to be social workers, we're learning to fight for people's rights. Like, why not fight for our own rights within a program that oppresses people of color, people of low like socioeconomic status? Like, I don't know, that was a real bonding moment those last 2 years at PSU.
For me, still struggling with distress. It's kind of hard to cope sometimes, but I have learned that it's very important to communicate with your professors and let them know what's going on. And if you have to drop a class, you know, if you can tell that your mental health is suffering and like the rest of your classes are suffering, sometimes it's best to just drop a class. And before, when I started, it was like so hard for me to do that. Like, I had to like tough it out. But later on, you know, like also talking to other students, it's like everyone does it, and there's no shame in like doing that, and giving yourself a break and putting yourself first. So
yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of stigma that comes with dropping classes.
Yeah,
I've never had to drop a class, but like I feel that like stigma for sure, or I felt that.
I'm a big advocate for dropping out if you need to. But like, because I feel like when I started college, I definitely like socially and mentally like was not ready. Like, I was in the same place as Mike, where I was just like so depressed and so like upset about just what I was doing there, because I was like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, going to school, like I was just like, I don't know, I felt very lost and like alone, and I only lasted a quarter. But once I dropped out, I was like, I'm gonna do stuff that makes me happy and not things that I want to do. Because like, I went to college and I thought I wanted it, but I also think I just thought that for myself for so long that I was like, I don't know what else I would do. So I was like, it really made me reevaluate like what I actually wanted versus what I thought was expected of me. And like, I don't know, like still, like I still only do things that I have fun with and want to do. Like, I've literally stayed at jobs for a week because I'm not having fun. And like, that's just made my mental health so much better to like have that mindset. But I think you need to get there, and like whatever steps you take to get there, whether it's dropping a class or like sticking it out or joining a club, like that is so important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think you need to get over that like barrier of what people think of you. Like, that's so important, because like colleges, I feel like, well, maybe not college specifically, but I feel like through middle school, through high school, you care so much about what people think about you.
Oh yeah.
And you get to college and you're like, oh, actually,
Nobody cares really.
I can do whatever I want. Like this is, it's like there's not so much pressure, I think, and you kind of discover what you like more, what you're down to do. I don't know.
It's like I think there's not much pressure in college, but after college there's for sure, because it's like when it comes to like friends and that, like you don't get to see those friends all the time anymore. You don't see that support system anymore. Now you're in the world, and it's almost like when I was younger, my dad would always tell me like, you don't know what the real world's about, right? Everyone always says that, and then and it's in a way it is true, because when you're finishing college and you're like an adult, well, you're an adult when you're 18, but it's like the world is so much different now that I'm not playing in sandboxes anymore, or like I can get in so much trouble.
I'm like, now I do play in sandboxes.
But it's like if you make mistakes now, there are consequences for it. You think more about that, when you're younger. It's like you made a mistake. Your parents are like, oh, he's just a kid. I think you can still be a kid at heart now, but whatever like actions we do, there is a consequence, indirectly or directly, to someone or to society or the world.
Mm-hmm. It's just like a self-awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, was anybody in a relationship in college?
Yeah, I was.
You
laughed. So, didn't go very long.
Please tell more.
like I said earlier, before like the cameras were rolling, like my college was really like depressing. So it's hard for you to date someone at the same age and like grade school level you are, and as you start to fail, you start to go down, and they still are academically prevailing. So it's hard to have that relationship where it's like you give enough time for them, but then you're suffering at the same time. So it's not really fair to have that relationship, and that's when it starts to suffer, because it's like you start pointing like bad things into the relationship. It's like you become really toxic at the end of the day. I think I dated a few people in college, and I was toxic throughout the all 3 relationships, because I didn't know who I was as a person, and so it just didn't work out. And I think that's really hard, because it's like you go back to college, you think about like regrets and that. Regrets is probably like I was not a good person in college. I think I'm a lot better person now.
I don't believe
But I think it's like you want to be like this like perfect couple, right? Like you want to get married and that you want to graduate together, like start a family and all that, and that doesn't happen because everyone's just so different and everyone's at different levels. So it's just hard for me to like be in a successful relationship because I didn't know who I was. And I think that's so important. Just you have to know what makes you happy to be in a relationship, because if you can't be happy, you can't give happiness to other people, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, I think that's just hard, and I feel bad for those people. I keep laughing, but it's like I feel bad for the people who are in a relationship with me, because it's like it was very unfair. Like those people were really good to me, and they were like just really kind-hearted people, but it was just I wasn't in that state where it's like it's almost like FOMO, right? Everyone else is in a relationship, and you're like, I just want to be in one too. And so it wasn't like, if I had to like, we talk about like college regrets, that's probably one of my biggest regrets, is to treat people better, especially when those people were like unconditionally loving me for who I am, even if I had failed like tons of classes. They never called me dumb or anything, but my view of who I was just overpowered that. I was like, I'm not a good person, and I'm not smart, this isn't good enough, and that becomes toxic. No, that's better. Toxicity in a relationship.
Are they going to be watching this podcast, do you think?
I mean, you just gave them like huge compliments.
I know, yeah.
I guess.
Kind of like
I've never actually told them that before. Maybe because they don't hate me and they don't talk to me, but it's. I am single. Quick plug there.
Is this an ad?
Just saying. Hey! Moving on, Sarah.
So I was in like 2 major relationships during college. The first was from high school. And I think that if I could go back and do it over again, I think I would have ended that high school relationship before going to college. We both went to the same college, but I think we both just wanted to explore college, and we ended up wanting different things in college than we did in high school. And I think that's totally normal, but I think that it also made freshman year additionally more stressful because you went through this traumatic breakup of your like high school sweetheart, and then you are in this new place and you just broke up and you're feeling a little bit depressed, and you have all that extra stress from classes on top of that. So I think I would have done that a little bit more differently. But then I met my current boyfriend through a Christian club on campus, and that was really awesome. He actually asked out my best friend first. And great, yeah, watching this. One of their dates went so badly that she ended up calling me to come and interrupt it. And once I got there, I was having a great time with him. I didn't see what the issue was. But we're the same age, but I skipped a year in school, so I was a year ahead of him. So it was kind of the same situation where like I'm a little bit ahead, so I've taken all the classes. But I think it was advantageous for him because I gave him all of my old practice exams. So I was like, here are all the exams that I took, so go study with them. And it was really helpful. But cheater? No, come on. That's all you study off of for chemistry and like OChem? All the practice exams. That's what you use. And
no, for giving him the practice ones.
Yeah, they were given by the professor to begin with.
Never helped me.
Really? Oh man, I loved it when people gave me practice exams. They were the best. But I had fun doing college. Like,
Sarah just loves school so much.
She's like, I do have your own practice exams, please.
Not anymore, I'm done. No more practice exams.
The truth comes
Just
out.
for fun.
They were great then, not anymore.
So was anyone else in a relationship during college or anything?
No. I mean, I like casually dated people, but it was never anything serious, and I think that I'm like happy because I got so much time just to spend with my friends and like, I don't know, some good times.
So moving on, or did you
no,
want
I was just gonna say, so again, my situation is non-traditional. I met my current boyfriend not at my college, but while I was going to college, and I almost didn't get involved because that's how like devoted to college I was and like wanting to like focus, and I almost didn't get into that relationship, but I ended up like choosing to. But I don't know where I was going with that. That was one thing. That's one thing I was thinking about.
Relax
but
a little,
also
enjoy it.
Yeah, well, just I think that like actually having that like social like part of my life helped me like kind of balance it out more, so that I wasn't like, you know, it kind of helped me like let things go, like, okay, well, I should really go study for this test, but maybe I'll go out and have fun instead and like loosen up and not be so like thinking about school 24/7.
Well, and a girl's gotta eat, so you
Yeah.
might as well go out to dinner.
Yeah, that too. But also like I was just when you said relationships, it just made me think of like not romantically, but like I think that a lot of my like friendships that I had before I started college when I lived in New York, like they definitely like suffered when I started school, and it was hard because I used to get invited out or invited, you know, to go to certain things, and then like I became the person that was like, no, I have to study, like, so like the more times I said that, then I stopped getting like invited to things, and then I became more isolated, so like college like kind of, you know, messed with my like friendships slash relationships in that way.
That's for me after college. Like I don't have friends. Or I make it sound like I'm a loner. I have friends, but it's like
podcast with your friends.
No,
where I talk to my friends.
I think it's as you get older, it's like the relationship you have with like people, it's so much different because it's less about, you know, I'm a person now who likes having intellectual conversations and not talking about like drama and that, like college drama, high school drama, like that stuff is like played out to me now. So it's better to have, for me personally, it's to have people who have like certain views in life. I think that's so interesting to just like hear about, and it's also like self-awareness, like you talked about, right? To understand how someone views life, it's just, I think that's more, makes me more happy than it is to just go out and like get hammered and crazy in that, but that's just me.
And just being like real,
Yes.
like having the ability to be real with people and like sharing your struggles and like not worrying so much about being judged, because we all need to know, like we all need to share in our struggles together. Like I think it's super important.
Yeah.
For sure.
High fives.
Jamie, we could like reach each other.
I'm sorry. We can't.
Pass it down.
Wait.
Everyone do a wave. Esther, start the wave.
How do you
What?
Wave.
Wait, what?
You guys don't know what a wave is?
Come on. Like
Like a sports game?
yeah.
What? I wasn't ready.
Do I have to
Esther
stand up?
first. No, you don't have to stand up. Just
Ready?
hands.
You don't need to be that dedicated.
You won't be able to see us if you stand.
Oh,
There we go. Now.
Congratulations. Yay.
Wait, why did we do that?
Guys, that was really lame.
I was gonna say
That was
send
really
it back.
sad.
I thought it was fun.
It could have been
Thanks,
faster.
thanks for fun. So let's wrap up this portion of it. What is your takeaway of college? If anyone wants to go first.
It's a broad question.
Yeah,
There's so many potential answers in that.
My biggest takeaways were like, because I had studied social work, it was more like about history, about how we treated people of color. Like, it was very focused on equality and inequality. But that like really taught me a lot about myself and how like these structural inequalities affect us every day. Because it's not something like you learn about history in high school, but they never teach you like in depth like what really happened, like, you know, all this stuff that I don't know. I feel like it's helped me gain so much more empathy for people, like that I feel like if I didn't go to PSU, at least it wouldn't be the same. And I'm more of an empathetic person because of it. I don't know, that's my biggest takeaway.
I've made some really good mental connections. I feel like maybe just like I remember one very good one, and there's not a lot of deep connections I feel like that you make during college. But having a person like, oh, I want to be like this someday also.
Yeah, role model.
For me, college was just a stepping stone into my master's program. So I think my biggest takeaways were about my studying style, about what I wanted to do as a career, and kind of like how to network with people and figure out where to go and who to talk to about it was also really important.
Yeah, for sure. I think even like going through PSU, like they tell you that like I feel like they teach you the importance of networking, versus in high school they don't tell you about that. They're like, yeah, just go to college, you'll learn everything. But I think it's so important to network like with people in college, with your professors, with everyone while you're in college. That helps you like get a job afterwards, because like I feel like if you're just doing it alone and you get out of college, you graduate, like it was so hard for me to find a job after I graduated.
I think it's very important to be college is, at least for me, is where you really tend to figure out what you want to study. So sometimes we go in and thinking that this is exactly what I want to study, but you also have to be open-minded about learning other things that might also pique your interest. And another thing is self-care is very important in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Biggest takeaway is that I want to say that no matter what you think you're going to do in the future, like it could change at any time. Like the job that I ended up in now is the job I got right up after I graduated, and I would have never saw myself in the field that I'm in. And I didn't even need a degree to start at the job that I'm at now, which kind of blows my mind in a way. So like 4 years of college, and then I ended up where I am now. But I don't know. I feel like that like opened up a whole new like world inside my head and like passion towards what I'm doing. So I just think that like the future is, very, I don't know, it's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you go to college for or what you experience in college, like you could still like go down so many different paths.
Yeah.
And like your interests could change. You could meet someone who opens your mind to something else. Like you just never know.
Yeah, I think mine's kind of similar. When I first started going to college, I was just like, what sounds like the most fun thing to do? Because that's what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, obviously. Like, I don't want to hate my job and, like, have to do that every day. And then, like, as I went through more and more and, like, after graduating too, it just showed me that, like, college and, like, your career and all that, it's just, like, such a small part of your life. Like, it does not define you at all as a person. And, like, you can have so many other passions that you're, like, involved in and, like, participating in all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I felt similarly to Johnny when you were saying that, like, it was hard to choose one thing because you felt like you have, like, all these interests and you want to just do everything. But yeah, I don't know. I think college showed me that, like, I don't know, that was, like, the first big goal that I, like, made for myself, other than just, like, you have to go to, like, high school and graduate and stuff, like, that kind of stuff. It's, like, I just want to continue, like, setting goals for myself as a person.
I was gonna say, I think it's like life is very long. It's more of like a marathon. It's not like a sprint or anything. And so everyone goes at their own pace, and you shouldn't judge people for that. And that, as long as at the end of the day, if you're happy, then you should be happy because you're happy. That's just human nature. You should be happy for someone like that. And so it's like, just do you. At the end of the day, I think that's just it.
Yeah, it's like you can plan so much, and then like everything could just fall apart. And so I don't know. It's like both like super terrifying, but also like kind of exciting. Yeah.
Exciting.
Or like, yeah, makes you feel a little bit better. Like, just doing the best I can. And we'll see what happens.
And so we wanted to spice up our podcast from last time. If you're watching this or you're listening to this on Spotify, you can watch the additional features on YouTube or any other streaming networks we have. But we wanted to do a little game show-ish kind of, kind of thing where people send in their questions and we either answer yes and no to them. Some of them are like fairly straight up, and some of them are like maybe. I don't know how to explain it. But Brittany's gonna read the questions and we're gonna answer yes and no.
Yes or no.
Yes or no.
At the same time. Same time?
Yeah, at the same time. So we'll go. Brittany will read the questions and she'll count to 3 and we'll flip our thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Have you ever cheated on a test while going to college?
It's upside down.
Mike.
I didn't go to college very well. Yes. Oh, good
Wait,
job.
what?
Yeah, me and you. See, I'm
I
like.
did not cheat.
No.
I'm a good child.
You guys didn't cheat? Like, take-home test, you guys didn't little peek on Google or anything?
How do you cheat on a take-home test?
It's implied. It's implied that you're gonna look stuff up if it's a
Really?
My
I didn't know
professors
that.
were even like, if it's a take-home test, use your notes because they know you're gonna look at your
And I
notes
use
anyway.
Google.
Like the answers needed to be more in depth. If it was a take.
Let me ask you this
Yeah.
You were allowed
Sarah,
to.
let me ask you this quick question. You're in science, right?
Yes.
Have you ever used that website that had all the answers already where you had to pay like a membership fee?
No.
Wait, which one is that?
Like,
Check.
You're like
check.
top
It's
Google.
check.
Oh.
I wasn't gonna pay for that. Are you kidding
Can't
me?
take away my degrees, but they don't take away degrees, right?
You haven't even picked up your diploma, so.
I guess it's there.
Technically. You don't know how to take it.
Alright, next question.
Next, okay. Do you currently have student debt?
Wow. Good for you.
Alright.
You.
It's important.
With no. That's awesome.
I just started, so.
Next.
Have you ever fallen asleep in class?
I feel like I have.
If you're half asleep, would it be?
I wish mine was definitely.
How do you fall asleep? Aren't you scared? Like, you're just gonna wake up and no one's
Even
gonna be
if
around you
it's
anymore?
brief.
What? You don't even.
I'm not even control that I'm sleeping.
You wake up and your class is gone and you're sleeping there? Yeah.
No. Well,
That's my
Doesn't
biggest
mean
fear.
that you full on fall
I mean,
asleep.
it's like the nodding off.
For a
Oh, the
little
nodding
bit.
off?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's nodding off, then I've
halfway.
done that then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still falling
Oh.
asleep.
No.
Let's see. Did you like living with your roommates? I'm
I-
like,
I'm my
Both?
only roommate, so.
it depends who it was.
And
I had a couple of roommates.
Yeah.
not on campus.
Most of the time, yes.
I don't know.
So are we counting if you had roommates but you lived off campus?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's still your roommate.
What if you're alone?
Okay.
Then yes.
Some of the time,
I enjoy
yeah,
myself.
some of the
Yeah.
time, no. It changed.
All right, let's see. If your roommate wanted to host a rager, would you allow it?
You know what a rager is?
A giant party.
Sick.
No. No. I'm in bed by like 10:30.
Hard pooper.
Not in college. Right now.
Okay, not in college, but no.
Did any of you own a pet in college?
Mm-hmm. Tortoise. What did you guys have?
Hamster,
Hamster, gerbil. Rest in peace.
beta fish.
Oh, we have fish now.
Turtle.
Cats? Anyone? Dogs?
I have a cat.
I had like my
College.
family pets, but I didn't have them at
Oh,
college.
they said I had my family.
Family is pets.
My pets. Did your parents expect you to go to college?
Everyone, yes?
No.
No. Interesting.
Do you think college can help you find your path in the future?
Oh, yes.
You said yes.
I think the experience helps.
surprised.
The experience helps you, but I don't think
Yeah.
the education.
It
definitely
can
helps
help you.
Do you think college makes you more wealthy?
Very mixed.
Yeah, I know.
It depends what you go for.
Mixed, yeah.
You're in debt first, and then you maybe get wealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is scary.
Yes.
But that's scary. I couldn't say definitely though.
That's why I'm moving it around.
Are you currently thinking about getting higher education?
You don't know what side it is.
On.
Maybe I should.
I really am, but people are already pushing for PhD for me.
Well, everyone's yes.
I'm thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for a while.
Good luck, y'all. You guys are very brave. Commend you guys for that.
Did you think you were college material?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
You had what it takes to be in college.
Initially, I did. I was like, I think I was
Yeah,
gonna do
I
really well,
That you, yeah, that you would do well.
I don't understand how this goes this direction so quickly, but have you ever fallen down a flight of stairs?
I've seen someone.
A flight? I mean,
In
I've
college
tripped
specifically?
over a couple. Tripped down a couple, but not a
For,
flight.
for people who go to OSU, they understand like there's this huge stairs cases, and you just it's just long.
So
It's just
you
You just go.
ambulance, like a whole flight of
It's faster
stairs.
than So walking. you just fall.
Well, I fell down.
Painful.
I fell down and walking upstairs before in my house in college, so it's.
All the way? A full flight.
That's what I was stuck on.
What do you count as a flight? A flight is like.
Like an entire.
Like
thing.
top to
Oh,
bottom.
yeah.
All
A
the way?
story, like the full length of the stairs.
Like I tripped on a
It seems
stair.
like something
but-
from the movies.
Right? Like
What my friends and I used to do is in winter, we would go in a different school building, and because like we called them bomber jackets, they kind of look like the Patagonia jackets but a bit more puffier. So we would give one person all the jackets and then roll them down the stairs.
I hope they had a helmet on.
that's awesome.
My hallway was dark and I just
question meant like in college, if you
or
drive.
ever in your life.
I don't know. There needs to be more information.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you pulled an all-nighter before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Just
The other
made it
day.
through college without doing it all night.
I want to know, like, were you doing schoolwork or were you just like partying?
Oh, mine was schoolwork.
School. Okay. Johnny?
Well, if it's
Yeah.
ever in our
Well,
life,
both, I
then,
guess.
then
Oh no, it's in
yes.
college.
Okay.
Johnny?
Studying, yeah.
Studying.
I always regretted those exams, and I forgot after a while, like the content.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You
and
do
so
over
cram.
study in like
Yeah.
short-term memory,
Yep.
and then it's gone.
I would
Yeah.
get A's and I'd sit in the exam with caffeine eyes.
Yep.
I would get like locked out of the sewing lab at my school, and I would have to like, I would be on the floor in my dorm with my sewing machine and like my foot like way up on like the little pressure foot.
That sounds like a movie.
Trying to like finish my project.
Oh no.
Did you have a crush on someone in college but never told them? So many times, especially my
Yeah.
teachers.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Librarian?
I had a huge crush on my theater teacher, and
That's
like
why you went
whenever I
to
saw him,
library.
he would like be like Brittany, and I'm just like, yes, like
You
how do
get-
you remember?
Flushed.
Yeah.
I had so many crushes on professors.
No,
So many crushes
Oh,
on
yeah, so many.
professors.
I know.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Do you have college regrets?
Good for you.
I mean, that's
Oh,
like
ish.
that's
I
like
don't
a
know. I
very-
mean, like
that's a
I
very
don't
general
like saying that I
question,
have
so-
regrets in general,
Yeah.
I think I have
you
regrets
know,
over
like
years.
because I learned so much, and like I'm happy where I am now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you think you're in a better stage of life now compared to college? Absolutely.
I hope everyone's.
Absolutely.
Why not, Johnny?
I don't know. I feel like, yeah, some of my college years, and when you think of your time when you've been the happiest, some of the years I had there were like my time. So if I say like, what was the question? Am I happier?
Do you think you're in a better stage of life now?
No. I think now decisions have more gravity and it's more difficult. That was the easy time back then.
More enjoyable.
Just like I can't rebuild it. It's impossible.
Yeah. Have you ever been attracted to a professor or TA?
Yeah.
That's just like, yeah.
Everyone's going through the teachers right now. I
Honestly, I feel like when I had a crush on a teacher, I would want to do so good. Like it'd be like the most motivating thing
Aw,
ever.
what kind of extra credit can I do?
I'm like, I will be your best friend.
I will be in all the office hours.
I'll be like, what can I do?
Twirling your hair. Do you think you deserve the grade you received? Is that the grade, like the GPA, or like?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's what the question meant.
In my undergrad, yes. I have some
I don't know.
would be in a master's class that I would like to discuss.
But it's hard because grades are not
I'm like sure.
a good
Yeah.
identifier.
Yeah, it's not a good
what
indicator.
I also
know.
like
I
don't
know.
care about grade. I mean, like I do obviously, like in the sense that I wanted to like graduate,
But
but
grade is just
yeah, I never
literally
really
just
think about it.
something that society places on you based on your knowledge, but it's not even
like
what you know.
class
It's just what
What came out during that
Yeah.
test?
it's.
Or how much time you spent
Yeah.
like devoted to studying or
I feel like in early education it would fuck me up a lot. Like if I would have a really bad grade in a topic, I would think I'm bad at this topic. So I
Yeah.
remember I had classes, for example, I don't know, even in my master's or bachelor's, where I would think, oh, I did really well in them, I must be good in them. But is it the truth?
Have you ever gone to class hungover?
What?
You just don't go to class.
Did you ever find yourself snacking on food at 3 a.m.? Still do?
Why not?
especially if you're playing an
What
all-nighter.
time
Yeah.
It was Just
You have
dinner.
to eat.
Dinner time.
We would always go to McDonald's. That's
Yeah.
where we would always go to McDonald's.
In-N-Out.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
California, yeah.
Don't have that.
But McDonald's, because it was a drive-in, and sometimes people were drunk, so you need a vehicle, so people would roll up on their bikes. You would see just people in bikes
Oh.
at the drive-thru.
Isn't it illegal to be drunk on a bike? To
Yeah,
ride your bike
you can
drunk?
get a BUI. That's the thing in
A
Davis.
BUI?
Wait, what is it?
Oh yeah,
Biking
like in Davis,
town.
you can get pulled over. Yeah.
Oh no.
It was a thing. 'Cause it's
Makes
such a
sense.
big
I mean,
biking town.
You can cause an accident if you're
Yeah.
bicycle driving into a
You
car.
injure
and
yourself
then-
too.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more serious almost if you're on a bike.
Did you ever need to run to the bathroom during an exam?
Yeah.
I
Always.
hold it.
Give me such anxiety.
I actually didn't.
Mine's a yes, but I wouldn't go because I would be scared that I just wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a really bad stomach ache.
What's gonna
I'm on the stairs.
Wait, what are the tests? Not the SAT, but the other one?
ACT?
ACT. I had to go to the bathroom during the ACT, and they said that if I left, then I couldn't come to, and take the rest of it. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'm not taking it. And then I just did it.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad.
Well, I was just thinking, like, there were definitely kids in my classes that, not to pass judgment, but I'm pretty sure that they left to go to the bathroom so they could look up answers, like, with their phone when they went to the bathroom, when they left the room.
Interesting.
So,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I just went to school
So
for
it's always the
nothing.
same
I'm
ones.
like, I guess I have to go home now. All right, last one, guys. Have you ever been too late to a class and decided to skip?
Heck yeah.
I just don't go to school. I'm not a good student.
I've done it.
Oh, is Sarah the only no?
If I was running late.
Wow.
Or having a good day.
Like how much in a class would you? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour?
It depends how much I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Probably.
True.
I'm like,
Or
I'm
what
gonna be
kind of
2 minutes
day.
late. Not worth it.
Yeah.
I've like been on time to class and decided not to go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like being late
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily like
That's
I've
true.
missed classes
Factor.
before, but being late wasn't the deciding factor there.
Yeah. All right.
That is our end of our
That's all
podcast.
of it. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. You can
We're listening.
yes, you can listen on Spotify. We're now on Apple iTunes, on Google Play, and like 3 other streaming networks. But stay in for like the next 2 weeks. I don't know what topic we're gonna talk about. I think it's up for Brittany to talk about it because I picked the last 2, but it's whatever Brittany wants. So thanks again for watching. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
No one's gonna know what that refers to.
But if
Yeah,
no one
we
watches
do.